So I'm going to take the rubber rib, get it wet. I don't want it to add a lot of water to the clay, but I want just enough water that it'll slide and smooth this out. And then I want to work that water into it until the whole surface is plastic rather than covered with slip or sticky in any way. And I also use a rubber rib because it'll slide a little bit better. And so I fixed that one. I also am going to now flip it over. And this is why I really don't want a lot of water, because I don't want it to stick to the piece of canvas or it'll mess up the other side. As I flip this over, I can feel that those cracks are going pretty far in the other side. Actually, they're worse over here. And so I'm going to slide this just a little bit away from that edge. Well, maybe. And you can see those cracks happened while it was really straining to push this clay. I used this clay that was just straight out of the pug mill and a little bit too stiff to show you the problems that it can cause when and how to fix them. If you're using softer clay, you're not going to have to work as hard to make your clay good, but like I said, there is one nice thing about this, and clay that's been just recently pugged is a little bit short or non-plastic because of the way that letting the clay sit and settle kind of lines up the particles in a way that makes the clay more plastic. And this just hasn't had the time for that. So this is really showing you what problems it can have, even if your clay is stiff, if it's not been, used and dried and wet and wedged, overworked in general, then it will be easier to use than this. So again, I got the water on there to smooth everything out, and now I'm just going over it enough to make sure that it's not going to be sticky. And that compression is extra important on a slab that's going to be bent. You want to make sure that you bend, particularly you compress the outside. So if you're curving it around like this, the outside edge of the curve is going to be the one that's, as it bends, it's going to be trying to pull apart. So you want it extra compressed in plastic so that it'll bend. The inside edge doesn't need as much help because it's being compressed as it bends. You do want it smooth though, because it's harder to smooth the inside out later. So now I'm going to go down to my final thickness. If your clay is pretty close already, then you skip a lot of those steps. And also be careful when you're got your fingers close in here that nobody's messing with that wheel. Same reason. Don't want to put a 1/2 inch of your finger or 3/8 of an inch of your finger through there. I'm going to tighten this down to 3/8 of an inch. Between 3/8 and 1/4 is fine. The thicker it is, the more control you have, but then the heavier your final product is. I like to go right between 3/8 and 1/4 for functional things like a pitcher that's kind of big, but I don't want to be too heavy. 3/8 of an inch gives you more control. Something small, you can go closer to 1/4 of an inch and still get the control. And anything I'm going to be sculpting into, 3/8 of an inch is better. So that's what I'm doing right now, is 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to push that through. And I've got still all of those cracks along the edges, but I've got a big section right in here that's very usable. And so I'd be ready to go and cut that into shapes that I'm going to use. I can also transport this if it's hard to pick up, which it can be. I can transport it like this and even flip it over so that it's ready to go. Be careful about how long you leave them on the concrete board of the wedging table, because it's going to be sucking water out of it that whole time. But if other people are using the slab roller, you can't leave it on the canvas. So you kind of pick it up like this, and you can gently lay it down. Notice I wasn't gripping. If I use my fingertips to pick it up, it's going to make lots of dents, and tend to tear the clay. If I use just the pad and the stickiness of the clay to move it, I can do that a lot better. So if I use the canvas to get it halfway upright and then just sandwich it between my fingers, between my hands, I can carry it around like that. So I do that, and then I can use this to cut whatever shape I need. And then take the extra bits. Say I'm not going to use this. I can just take these, dunk them in water, and set them in a little stack to be put back into my bag. That's it.